Hey everybody, welcome back to the Connected channel. I'm Aaron Hurley. Thank you so much for joining me again. But if it is your first time on the channel, thank you for being here. Take a moment to like the video and subscribe below to help grow the community and so that you also are alerted when I post future content. So for today, I want to ask you a question up front. Has it ever occurred to you that the reason why you might be feeling a sense of desperation in your life today is because God is trying to get your attention? Well, that's what we're going to get at today coming up. Hey everybody, thanks for coming back for another episode of 5 Minutes for Your Faith. Today is episode 25, and our title for the day is Realizing Desperation. And our focal passage will be James chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. And as always, I want to put it up on the screen for you so you're able to follow along with me and break it down with me as we go along. So let's read this together. It says, "But if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all generously without reproach, and it will be given to him. But he must ask without any doubting. The one who doubts is like the surf of the sea, driven and tossed about." We've all been in life situations, and you might be in one right now when you're watching this video thinking this is probably one of the most pointed issues in my life at the moment, and that is, what is going on? What am I supposed to do with what I'm dealing with? And the Bible answers that question in two parts here. He says, go to God and ask for wisdom. Secondly, when you ask, don't doubt it. Because what we're going to see here as we break this down is that God is trying to use situations in your life to get your attention. And God is just allowing something in your life that right now you don't get it. But He is using it in His sovereignty to make you more conformed to the image of Christ. So let's break this down together and we'll get to it. The first part is this: lacks wisdom. What it means is being in want of, being in a shortfall, left behind in insight and maturity of discerning the things of God. We have all been here. We have all been in a place where we have felt like, okay, apparently the train has left the station, I got left. When it comes to understanding what God is trying to do in my life, I have been there, and I'm sure that either you have been there, are there, or you're going to be there sometime in the near future where you are confused. And this piggybacks with what we talked about yesterday. It's this idea of hearing God speak, being close to Him, and being able to discern Him as He speaks. So this whole idea of lacking wisdom means to be undiscerning, not being able to hear God, being able to distinguish God when He is allowing something to happen in your life. But He's ultimately calling you into deeper faith in Him. And sometimes circumstances are such where we don't get it. Why am I going through this? This makes absolutely no sense. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Why is following God so difficult? Why is it that every time I get close to God, this kind of stuff happens? It really is a temptation for us to want to walk away from following God, because when we go through things and we lack wisdom on how to handle it, it is a great temptation, you know what I'm talking about, to walk away from intimacy with God, because our knee-jerk reaction is, if I trust Him, I'm going to go through some stuff. If I get close to Him, that means I'm going to have to go through more pain and suffering. And that's something we temper ourselves with sometimes if we don't have wisdom in how to handle a situation. Let's look at this next part, and that's this: without reproach. It means without disgracing you, without mockery, without casting blame, without false assumption. You have at least one person in your life who is that person whose job, apparently, whose calling from God, it would seem, is to critique you and to tell you everything you've done wrong. It's almost like Job's friend. Well, you must have sin in your life. Well, sometimes it's not sin. Sometimes it is sin. Sometimes it's uncircumstantial. Sometimes it's just God's will for you to go through some stuff, because He has an intention of making you more like Christ. And the only way you can do that is to go through something that is going to cause in you maturity that would not otherwise happen. So when we talk about this idea of without reproach, we need to understand that God does not allow anything to come into your life that He does not intend to use. And He knows that you don't understand everything that's going on, and He knows that you're going to come to Him and ask Him for help and for aid. And when you come to Him, He's not going to point His finger at you and say, look how weak you are, look how inept you are, look how much of a failure you are. God wants you to come to Him and cleave to Him in every way. Why else do you think that he's allowing whatever it is in your life today to come to pass? So when God comes to us to aid us and give us what we need in the moment, he does it without critiquing you. He does it without pointing his finger at you. God knows exactly where you are, and he knows exactly what you need. God is not like people who look at you and assume about you, oh yeah, I see that. You must have had this and that going on you, or you must have done this and that. God knows everything already. So when he comes to your aid, know that he's doing it in spite of whatever the situation is, and he's doing it to bring you the help you need to cleave to him and ultimately to bring glory to himself. Let's look at the next part, and that's this. Doubting. It means to waver back and forth, to negatively discriminate, to overthink, or to vacillate. When it comes to coming to God, you have got to make a decision up front. If I'm going to go to God, why bother doing it if I'm doubting him? I might as well worship myself. If I'm going to go to God that I say that I love and I say that I trust, and then double talk out both sides of my mouth, proverbially speaking, where I'm saying, God, I love you. God, I need you. Help me in my situation. And then on the other side of your mouth, yeah, well, God's let me down. Yeah, this and that's happened before, and it doesn't really seem like God's really spoken into that, or he's really answered that prayer, or really come through for me. You've got to decide which one it's going to be. Is it, oh, I trust you, or, oh, well, I'm going to say that I trust you and act as if you don't know any better and I really don't. Let's really be honest with ourselves. God knows our hearts. He knows the intentions before we even pray for whatever it is that we're praying for. That's why he says, don't come to him vacillating, acting like you don't know whether God is going to follow through on his promises. So let's look at this last part, because it really piggybacks on this idea of doubting, and that is to be driven and tossed. It means to be agitated or perturbed by, like chaff separated from wheat, to be aimlessly pushed by external forces. There is turbulence and there is shifting sand. There is tossing waves, and we know what it's like to be caught in that and feel as if we are just out at sea, tossed about by life, and have no point of reference. Maybe the desperation that you feel in your heart, this need of God arriving for you, God's placed that there on purpose so that you'll act on it, so that whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, you will run to him instead of running from him. This is the kind of stuff that situations make or break people who say they believe in Jesus. When stuff happens, you either run to him or you blame him and run from him. Which is it going to be today? So you need to really take inventory of your heart today. And I pray that you will do what the title of this message is, and that is to realize in your life a sense of desperation for God that will draw you closer to him and that will bring him glory, because he comes to your rescue every single time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 minutes for your faith. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.